Could you talk about some of the specific themes in the book other than the military aspects, perhaps such as literature, medicine, music, that sort of thing?
Well, one of the chief ways that human beings have always experienced war is through literature. That's one of the chief sort of ways to express yourself, not just for Americans, but throughout human history. And Americans, of course, were no different. Some of the most amazing writing in American history was done during the course of the Civil War. Right before the Civil War, during the 1850s, you had some of the greatest writers and thinkers working even as Americans moved closer and closer to the battlefield. Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, Herman Melville, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Some of these thinkers were just remarkable in their ability to capture the feelings of people during these tense times as America marched toward war. During the war, of course, we have some of the great literary figures, Henry Timrod in the South, William Gilmore Simms in the South. We have Walt Whitman still writing in the North, and of course one of the great poems in American literary history is Leaves of Grass, which reflects in part this assassination and the death of President Lincoln. So it's through literature oftentimes that Americans express their feelings of the horrors of war. So that was really one of the reasons why I wanted to make literature a centerpiece of telling that story. In regard to medicine, as I'm sure many doctors would tell you, even today, during the Civil War, medicine was still a very primitive science, and it's a stretch perhaps even to call it a science because it was so much in its infancy. No one really understood the nature of disease or microbes, bacteria, and viruses. Those are understandings that really don't take place until the later part of the 19th century. So doctors who operated on patients most of the time without the benefit of anesthetic would use the same tools on one patient that they would use on another patient, and of course taking diseases with them on the implements that they used for the surgeries along the way. So it was really, medicine during the war was really a struggle to cope with the dramatic suffering that one would have experienced on the battlefield. And women played a very instrumental role in helping to nurse soldiers. Some of them, soldiers who were dying, were administered to by nurses who read to them from the Bible or read to them from famous novels or newspapers. Women as nurses were there to comfort the suffering, and sometimes they were the last faces that these soldiers saw.